course, I have a cat on my lap again, without fail. Hello, this is Sarah SoiledPlant and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be going over my wish list plants. I've made a couple of these wish list videos in the past and I'll be sure to link them down in the description below for you. I've of course got my handy computer sitting right here, so I'll be showing you what I'm looking at on the screen. Scooch over a little bit for optimal plant viewing. The plants that I have on my wish list are like slightly hard to come by, but nothing is like super rare. But these are definitely plants that I would like to have. The first plant that I'll mention is the Calathea musaica. It's also known as the Calathea network, but the official name is Gopertia kegelgenii. Kegelgenii? I'm butchering that, of course. That is the plant I'm talking about, but most people know it as the Calathea musaica. Now this one, from what I've heard, as far as Calatheas go, is one of the easier Calatheas to care for. These also tend to grow a little quicker than most Calathea, and Calathea aren't like a slouch at growing if they're happy, but I have heard that the musaica is especially quick and can get big very fast. And of course, if you've been around for a minute, you know that I definitely have a deep and undivided love of Calathea. It is a tumultuous love-hate relationship sometimes, but there is a lot of love there, and I love my Calathea. Of the Calathea I don't have, this is the main one that I have not gotten a hold of. I've seen these around, of course, but they are usually small and then expensive. I know that, you know, your big box stores are starting to come out with it because Costa Farms has gotten a hold of this one and has done a very good job growing it. So it's just a matter of time before I finally find one that is more reasonably priced, and that is what I plan to do. I want to get a decent sized plant, of course. Calatheas have a higher success rate, at least with me, if they are a larger plant. And this one, I definitely want to make sure I have at least a 4-inch pot, preferably a 6-inch pot or bigger. Now, it may be a little obvious why I love this plant and why I want it so badly, but those leaves are so good. They're so incredibly unique. I do have the Calathea macrophylla, which the pattern on the leaves does have a little bit of this where they're reminiscent, but the musaicas is much more bold and kind of in your face and much more obvious than it is on the macrophylla. The macrophylla is gorgeous, but that is not the first thing you're seeing. You're not seeing this lovely network pattern on the leaves. This plant is truly gorgeous and it's getting easier and easier to find. I just want to make sure I find one that is a good specimen for a good price. The next plant on my list is in a similar boat where I know these are popping up in big box stores and I just need to find a good one for a good price, and that is the global green Pothos. I have so many different Pothos varieties. I have definitely collected a lot of the heartleaf philodendron in different varieties and different colorings. And with Pothos, while I have a few of them that are really nice, I don't have like every single variety like I do with heartleaf philodendron. But this is definitely one that is on my list. I have so few plants that have kind of that lovely sectoral variegation where the variegation is green as opposed to white or yellow or cream. The color scheming kind of gives me Philodendron Brazil, but obviously the patterning on this one is way different than the Brazil gives off. The Brazil is always like very much in the center and it can spread depending on how much light you're giving it, or it can even once in a while give you like a whole half moon in that lighter green color. This one almost looks like a Hoya to me in how the variegation is spread out. And of course, because it's a Pothos, it is supposed to be very hardy and do a good job growing and replicating itself and being a healthy plant. It's super easy to grow. Anytime I see a variety of Pothos that I do like and I want to pick up, I make it a point to try and pick them up because generally speaking, they're very easy plants to take care of, and if they're really pretty and offer some nice variety to your plant collection, might as well. But yes, would definitely like to pick one of those up. This next plant is one that I saw on a Harley G video like many months ago, And I made a note of this plant because I thought it was so pretty and I really, really wanted one. And that is the Syngonium angustatum. I do have kind of a growing collection of Syngonium. I do think they're really, really lovely and they're beautiful and once again, easy to grow, which is also a nice plus in my book. You know, having beautiful plants is great and all, but if they're also super easy to grow and not as fussy as some other plants, excellent. Let's get it. Let's pick it up. Where is it? I will get one tomorrow. But the thing I really like about this particular Syngonium is the shape of the leaves. So kind of the upper lobes and the bottom lobe are very distinct. It's less arrowheady shaped and it's more like 3 distinct leaves together. I know it's not, it's all one leaf, but it gives that kind of impression, almost like a Uwepii or a Philodendron 69686, which I have and I love. It's that same kind of shape, and I do love an oblong kind of skinny leaf like that. Very into that. I also love the pattern on the leaves. I love when the inner veining is sort of very light and crisp and kind of melds into a darker green. I have a few different plants like this. You know, my Frydek is basically just like straight up, the vein is bright white up against the velvety back. That's really nice. I have Syngoniums that do have a color gradient. I can grab this one real quick just to demonstrate. But if you give it less light, it does produce leaves kind of like this angustatum, where it's light in the middle and dark on the outside. And I love it. It's super cool. And I love the variety that Syngoniums can give you based on the light requirements that you're giving it, and probably the warmth and things like that. Like, they will kind of shift their coloring, but that gives you a nice variety to a single plant as opposed to every leaf being produced exactly the same. So with this one, I love the coloring and I love when there's gradients, but also that leaf shape is just awesome. And I don't think this one is like the hardest to come by. Syngoniums, even the expensive ones, aren't like that bad compared to like philodendrons and anthuriums, for example. So I think it's possible to get one of these in like some form or another, but it might take me a little while to find a good specimen for the price that I'm looking for. This next one is one that I feel like pretty much every person on the plant YouTube, plant Instagram community, like everybody has this plant except for me. I may be exaggerating a little bit, but it certainly feels that way, and that is the Hoya macrophylla. Like with the musaica, I have seen these around, but they're usually like 1 or 2 leaves for an exorbitant price that I am not willing to pay. I don't think these are like hard to grow by any stretch, so I feel like it's just a supply and demand issue. So I'm kind of waiting for more people to get this plant so I could get it for a little bit less expensive or a bigger plant for the same price. But yeah, let me talk about this plant for a minute. Now, Hoya generally have all smaller leaves. There's not a ton with like bigger, broad leaves. While these leaves are not gigantic by any stretch, they are going to be larger and more substantial than your average Hoya, or at least ones that I have. These leaves are a little bit wider and like a little beefier. I mean, that's why I like my obovata, is I got the nice beefy leaves, and these leaves for this plant are going to be a little bit smaller than an obovata, but it's the same kind of thing that I'd be looking for because I love this plant and I want something kind of similar. But not only are the leaves nice and broad and beefy, they also have those insane veins that are actually ridged and like have a texture to them, and they look beautiful. So it's like textural and it's got like that nice visual of the veins. Of course, I love a leaf that has like a nice white outside, you know, much like a crimson queen. Love it. Basically, all of the things that I love about Hoya, this plant has. So definitely want to pick one up. This next plant I've definitely seen around. It was not the first time seeing this plant, so I've known of this plant, but the first time I finally like admitted, yes, I really, really want this plant, and I put it down on my wish list, was when I saw Lulu Leaves video on this also several months ago, but I'm referring to the Alocasia scalprum. I mean, come on. This plant is gorgeous. I have a sort of loving, slowly growing collection of Alocasia where it's like, I only like very particular Alocasia, and I try not to buy more Alocasia than I'd like truly want, because they are a little bit fussy to deal with. Not quite as fussy as my Calathea, but I've had issues with Alocasia over the years. So I only buy the ones that I truly want. And this one, just, it checks all the boxes for me. It has the sort of traditional Alocasia leaf shape where it's more oblong with the smaller lobes up top, but it looks like a dragon scale. It's got the dragon scale coloring to it. It's a little excessive, but I do have 3 of those, and I would love to add this one to my collection. Like, this is a stunning plant. I do have a soft spot in my heart for any plant that can kind of lean towards the blue side of things as opposed to just being green or different color greens or even white or cream. I love variety in my colors, and these leaves that have a bluey, almost grayish tint to them are very, very much in my wheelhouse of things I would love to have. And I'm not sure, but I know with my dragon scale, the leaves are very thick and have a nice, like, solid texture to them, so they're not super flimsy. And I feel like this one is going to be similar, and I can't really tell from the photos. I haven't actually touched one of these in person, but I feel like the plants that kind of have that like scaly pattern to them, they're all like a little bit tougher than your average Alocasia that are like super thin and bug magnets. So I definitely love this plant. Definitely want one. It's on my list. I'm looking for it. I'll stick with Alocasia because this next plant is also Alocasia, and that is the Alocasia zebrina. I have kind of had my eye on this plant basically since like Kaylee Ellen, when she had hers back when she was in like her old apartment and everything. She had like a gigantic one of these with the most beautiful, you know, stems in the world, and it was usually in like the background of her videos. I loved it, but I always thought that this was a little out of my price point, so I never kind of like delved into whether or not I should get one or not. I wasn't into Alocasia at the time, and I wasn't comfortable with the idea of getting Alocasia back when I was watching those old videos. Nowadays is a little bit different. Now I think that this would be an amazing thing to add to my collection. The leaves are nothing to write home about. Not gonna lie, you know, it's this traditional Alocasia, you know, kind of V shape, but there's no major veining. It's not velvety. It doesn't have variegation, or at least not like the regular one does not have variegation. But those stems, oh my gosh, they're like giraffe necks. I'm obsessed. Look at that. Like, I don't think that this is like a huge stretch. I think most people, if they saw one of these in person, would like at least be interested in it. They're definitely not an offensive plant. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like this is a general crowd pleaser. Like, most people can agree that this is a lovely plant. I've yet to see one in person, and I have no idea what price they're going for these days, but I do love this plant, so I wanted to add it to my list. And the last one is the only philodendron in my list. It's probably, of the things in this list, probably like the most recently added, so I'm most like on the fence about it. Can't deny how pretty it is, and that is the Philodendron Snowdrift. This is one of those plants that if you give it like the best light in the world, lots of heat, you know, the right fertilizer, you breathe on it the right way, you don't breathe on it the wrong way, and then it'll produce the most beautiful white leaves you've ever seen, and it holds on to that nice white leaf for a while as it fades down to green. And as it's fading, it'll look nice and minty, and even though the leaf comes out kind of that creamy white, it has that green speckling all through it. It is truly a beautiful plant. As far as a wish list and a daydream, this seems like right up my alley. It's got color, it's got variety. I don't have any of the philodendrons that have this particular leaf shape, so that would be interesting. I do like how it grows from pictures I've seen of it growing. It's very nice in that regard. I just know for me, the type of philodendrons that are kind of clustery, the ones like Pink Princess or Prince of Orange or Macaulay's Folly, Black Cardinal, I know myself at this point, and I know to avoid philodendrons like that, even though I think they're beautiful. Because just for me, whenever I've tried to grow those plants, they just get all wonky and look terrible. But I do truly love this plant. I don't have a ton of plants that are like straight up white. I did get myself a Florida Ghost a little while ago, but I have not given it optimal light yet. So when it produces new leaves, it's still not pure white. It's more of like that minty color the second it comes out. I'm working on it. So I'm definitely not going to buy this plant anytime soon, even if it is in my budget, I say, like, if it was $50, yeah, I'd get it. But if it, you know, I found it for $2.50 and it was a great deal, like, I'm still probably not going to get it because I haven't figured out how to pull that white initial open leaf from a Florida Ghost yet. And if I can't figure it out on that plant, I'm probably not going to be good enough on this other plant. But as far as what the plant looks like, and if I'd like to own it, and if I'd like to see it in my house, 100%. I would love to have a plant like this. It's really, really pretty. I just think it would be so cool to have one of those. So it's on the list. But yeah, I really appreciate you being here. If you liked this video, don't forget to subscribe. Also, give this video a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Doesn't matter to me. I just love that you're here and you're willing to interact with my channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you next time. Bye!